All right, we're live.
Are you ready, Klim?
I'm ready.
How you doing, everybody? And welcome to another episode of the Moffett on the Mic Show. We are live, as always, on a Monday night, courtesy of the A1 Sports Network. I am Craig Moffett, and of course, this show would not be complete without the production stylings of the one and only Chris Klim.
What's up, Craig?
Very shitty Monday, Klim, I must admit. However,
Oh yeah.
The Jets winning 40-17 definitely softened the blow a little bit. So while I'm pissed off about the Mets, I'm not really that pissed off because the Jets had a great game yesterday and made my life a little bit more enjoyable for a day. So you can follow the show on Instagram, Moff on the Mic. You can follow the show on my Facebook page as well. Follow Klim and the A1 Sports Network on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. You can subscribe to the show courtesy of Apple Podcasts. Like and comment, leave us a 5-star review because it makes us feel oh so special at the end of the day. Right, Klim?
Oh yes. I'm ready to go. Because you mentioned.
Wait. It's time for our new segment, Klim coming in hot.
I was so happy, with the way the Jets played yesterday. I'm like, all right, going into good night. Here we got a WWE Extreme Rules I'm looking forward to. I got the Mets to look forward to. No, I had a great weekend up until the Mets ruining everything. It was, I can't even explain. I was telling you prior to us going live here, and I told some of my friends, I could handle a 4-3 loss, something close, where we was we really fought. No. Doors blown off from the get-go. From Friday, doors blown off, to Sunday getting one hit, 2 base runners. That's embarrassing. It's embarrassing from a team that, and let's not, let alone the fact, we just wasted 101 wins. Wasted it. There we go.
Okay.
That's my 2 cents.
You feel better now?
A little bit, yes.
Okay. The funny thing is, I wasn't the most confident going into the series with the Padres. I'll be very honest. I never thought the Mets really got over getting their asses handed to them in Atlanta. I think that was definitely the turning point for me for the season. The Mets were in first place for 175 days. And then they go into that weekend series with Atlanta, and they just completely shit the bed. And that was with the same pitchers you had in the San Diego series. Now, at the same time, what I will say is that when they got the National Series and the Mets started getting, winning 9-2, and you're like, okay, maybe the offense just needed just to beat up on the Nationals for 3 games to get ready for the wild card. Mm-hmm. And you get Max Scherzer for game 1, then Buck for some reason is trying to play mind games and say, oh, we may not start Jacob deGrom until game 3. And everything, which was a huge mistake. You can't not start Jacob deGrom. Mm-hmm. I mean, and whatever. And Scherzer goes out Friday, and again, the crowd is pumped. Citi Field is rocking and everything, and that's the performance you put out on the field. Josh Bell hit a 3-run homer before the game, before anybody even sat down. And again, it's just, this is the shit that always bothers me about the Mets, and I've said it time and time again on the show. They simply don't get up for big games. We were expecting, all they had to do was win 1 game against Atlanta, and they would have been fine. I think they would have been fine for the division. All they had to do was win 1 game, okay? They couldn't do it. Scherzer, deGrom, and Bassett combined could not win 1 game in Atlanta. That was bad enough. And that is a tough way to go into the wild card series. Because the problem is when the Mets clinched the wild card, it just had the feeling of this really crappy consolation prize. Mm-hmm. Okay, it's like there was an episode of Married with Children I was watching, right, where Bud goes on this dating show, and he's up against this really hot guy to win this woman, and the prize is like a big vacation to go away with the woman who picks. It's like the dating game, right? And he pours his heart out to this woman and everything, and she winds up choosing the other guy, and all he gets out of it was like a 1-year supply of car wax. Okay, it's like that's what it felt like. It felt like car wax. It just felt like a really shitty consolation prize because the Mets had been playing well all year long. 101 wins. You're always going to hit some bumps in the road. But what bothered me even more is, and I've seen this a lot too with the Mets, is they play down to their competition a lot. They can't beat the Nationals. They can't beat the Marlins. They get swept by the Cubs. Yeah, those games do matter. Those games do matter because that is the difference between the Mets winning the division and the Mets losing the division. And typical, right? Lost in all this is the fact that the Mets swept the Nationals in the last series of the season, and the Braves lost 2 out of 3 to the Marlins in the last of the season. So you go into that Friday game, and this is exactly why you signed a guy like Max Scherzer. $44 million a year, whatever the AAV is, I don't remember. It's like 43.8 or something like that. This is why you signed him, for moments like this. Game 1, Citi Field, Mets fans rocking, and that's the shit that gets put out. And before you know it, Mets confidence completely destroyed. The Mets bats, nothing, and they got their asses kicked in game 1. Fast forward to game 2 now with Jacob deGrom. And it's the same script with Jacob deGrom starts. This same script. No run support. 0. No run support. 1 run off the Lindor home run. And then as soon as the Braves tied it and I think they took the lead, or the Padres, excuse me, you automatically got this feeling like, well, there goes that, because the Mets never fucking score runs for Jacob deGrom. Jacob deGrom pitched well. But what you noticed about the series, too, was the Padre hitters were definitely getting to the Mets starters. They were getting on base. They were getting hits. They were getting big hits. Trent Grisham, who's hitting 182, killed the Mets in this series for some ridiculous reason. Josh Bell hits a 3-run homer. Soto gets big hits in big spots. Okay? Darvish kills the Mets once again, because apparently the Mets have no fucking clue how to beat Darvish. And in a do-or-die game 3, okay, because I forgot where I read this. I think I read it in The Athletic, and I thought it was ridiculous. It was the fact of, they were expecting more out of Chris Bassett than what he is. Chris Bassett was a fucking ace in Oakland last year. He was a number 1 starter for the Oakland A's last year. He's a number 3 on the Mets. I can't imagine what kind of pressure the Mets are putting on Chris Bassett to deliver. I don't understand. The guy won 15 games this year. He had a pretty strong season overall, except for a few hiccups, especially in the Braves series. So why wouldn't I have confidence in Chris Bassett to get the job done?
No, you're absolutely right. We have our first question. Who do you guys think is going to the World Series?
I really think it's going to be the Yankees. I'm convinced. And I know what people are going to say. They're like, "Oh, you're fucking jinxing the Yankees." There's something about Houston. I think the Yankees could beat them this time. I think the Yankees could definitely beat them. I don't think the Guardians are a strong division winner out of the Central. But to be honest, there's one team that could really fly under the radar. It's the Mariners.
It really is.
Fly under the radar.
I mean, to be perfectly honest, in the AL, I think it could be any one of those 4 teams. None of those teams are jumping off the chart like, oh yeah, this is the team that's not like in the NL. I think the NL it's gonna be the Dodgers. I think it's gonna be Dodgers Braves in the finals. Unfortunately, in the championship series, I think the Dodgers are just too good. Like there's no one beating the Dodgers. But in the AL, it's tough. I really think none of those teams are like, yep, that's the team going to the World Series. No, the Yankees. The Yankees are
the problem with the Yankees. I think is that they tend to still live and die by Judge.
Yes,
and I think they have the pitching. But Cole has not been as effective in the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
They've struggled a bit in the playoffs. I don't know who's pitching for Cleveland tomorrow. I'm going to assume it's Shane Bieber, but I'm not really 100% sure. But the fact is like the Yankees tend to still live and die by Judge. And the one thing about the Yankees too is they really live and die by the home run ball. I've been saying that for a long time. You look at their batting averages are really, really low. Because all they can do is hit home runs. And a Yankee Stadium, it's a launch pad. So, I mean, they could definitely take advantage of like the short porch in right field. They could take advantage of being a Yankee Stadium. The Guardians have been doing this with a lot of like smoke and mirrors, though. Jose Ramirez has been ridiculously good this year. Yeah. They've gotten a lot of contributions out of players like Ahmed Rosario, Andres Jimenez. I mean, just to name a few. They've had quality pitching, but one thing they also have is Terry Francona is such a good manager. He is an incredible manager, and I don't think he gets the credit he deserves a lot of times. Nobody ever talks about how good of a manager Terry Francona is.
No, I mean he's been to the dance. He knows what it's like.
He better win Manager of the Year because this was a team. The Guardians were a team that literally sliced and diced their entire payroll. I think their payroll this year alone is only like $40 million.
Yeah.
Because they have a lot of young players under team control. They gave Jose Ramirez the big contract he rightfully deserved. But most of the other players they have are not big-time contract players.
No, they're not.
They weren't really that active at the trade deadline. I mean, the Twins made more moves, and look at where the Twins wound up. So the Guardians could be one of those teams, but I don't know if they're good enough to beat the Yankees in best of 5 or best of 7?
It's best of 5.
It's best of 5.
I think that they got the pitching. That's without a doubt. But yeah, like you said. But again, I said before, I think it can go in any direction with any of these teams. I think, like you said, I think the Mariners could easily go to the World Series. I think the Yankees could easily go to the World Series. I think the Astros can easily, and I think the Guardians can too. It's that easy. Al has another question for us. I like this one. Do you think Judge is going to the Mets?
No, I don't.
What I do think though is he's going to be like Uncle Steve's going to bring him in. Mr. Judge, sit down right here.
I think I'll tell you what's going to happen.
Write whatever you want on it. That's what I hope he does.
I'll tell you what's going to happen. No, he's not going to come to the Mets. I think he's going to use the Mets as leverage to go back to the Yankees.
Oh, absolutely.
But if there's one team, I will be very honest, and I give props to Keith on this one because we talked about this a while ago. If there's one team don't sleep on as a possibility to land Judge, the San Francisco Giants.
Yep.
They have a lot of contracts coming off the books. I think he's from California, if I'm not mistaken. And I don't think he would have any problem playing in that park because that park is absolutely gorgeous.
I think he grew up a Giants fan.
I think the Mets have a lot of other issues right now. I think this team is going to look completely different from next year. I think there's going to be a lot of guys you're not going to see return. I think you're going to see guys that are going to get shipped out. And I am going to say it right now on this show on this day. The day is October 10th, 2022. And I will tell you right now, I don't think Jacob deGrom will come back to the Mets. I'm saying it right now. He doesn't look like he wants to come back. Like, I just think he doesn't look like he wants to come back. I don't know if it's years and years of just pitching his ass off and not getting the support. I don't know what it is. I can't see the Mets giving $90 million combined to Scherzer and deGrom. I just don't see it. There's too many issues with this team right now, and you can't soak all of your money into two starters.
I agree, but the Mets rotation is going to be so depleted this offseason because you're not only losing deGrom, you're losing Bassett, you're losing Walker. They got no one in this rotation.
Here's the thing about Billy Epler. He's going to have to make a tough decision. And the decision is going to be you either give deGrom $40 million a year, $45 million a year, or you go after, you just round out the rotation with Bassett and bring back Walker and Bassett.
Steven said, rumor has it, he already has a house under contract in Atlanta.
I wouldn't be surprised. I honestly would not be surprised. They just gave Spencer Strider $75 million, though.
See, to even go off of what they just with the Braves, the Braves have been doing phenomenal with their young contracts.
I'm telling you right now, Klim, this is the new version of Chipper Jones and Andrew Jones and the pitching staff that's going to rival. I don't know if it'll ever rival Smoltz, Maddox, and Glavine, but it's going to come pretty damn close. And all those guys are under team control. And they just, they're giving these guys. They're signing these guys right off the bat right now. They're not wasting time because this is who they want to roll with. That's pretty big, man. Now that you have Strider, you have Max Fried, you have Kyle Wright, who's a 20-game winner, Charlie Morton for another year at $20 million. Charlie Morton at that price is a freaking bargain as far as I'm concerned. You have a young offense around Michael Harris, Austin Riley, Ozzie Albies, Ronald Acuna Jr. That team is set for a long time.
Exactly, and all on team-friendly deals.
And unfortunately, the issue with the Mets, though, too, is the Mets are too top-heavy in their farm system right now. And we don't know what these guys are. So my honest-to-God's opinion will be I don't think Jacob deGrom will be back next year. I do think the Mets are going to counter that, though. I think they're going to make a trade for somebody. I could definitely see that as a possibility.
They got him.
And if you come into next year and you have Scherzer back, if you bring back Bassett and you bring back Taijuan Walker, you have Carrasco, you still have a solid pitching staff. Is it elite like would be with deGrom? No, of course not. But sometimes you got to be careful because if you give deGrom $40 to $45 million a year, you are going to wipe out your entire budget. And you're not going to be able to go after bring back Brandon Nimmo if you wanted to bring back Brandon Nimmo. You are not going to be able to bring back Taijuan Walker if you need somebody for the back end of the rotation. You are not going to bring back any of these guys. And, oh, by the way, we still have to sign Diaz. So that's another person you got to sign. You can't – if you let Diaz go now, that's it for Epler. Fans will turn on him pretty quick. So it's going to be some give and take. And the truth of the matter is that I don't know if the Mets can afford to risk that much money on deGrom, knowing full well that he did not pitch for over a year since last July. And I know he pitched great, and I know he pitched great the second half of the season. I know he had a few hiccups and everything, but those arm issues concern me big time. They concern me a lot. And I would rather see the Mets. Listen, if he goes to Atlanta, he goes to Atlanta. Whatever. That's fine. Okay? It sucks, but I can live with it. But there could be plenty of guys on the market that they can round out that rotation with. And I think if you bring back Bassett and Walker to go with Scherzer, to go with Carrasco and possibly Peterson, still have a pretty good five.
Mets didn't lose because of their pitching. Sure didn't help, but they need to get more consistent bats. Batting order needs to be deeper. He's right.
He's right. But here's what I want to kind of clear the air about too, though. I'm not going to kill. A lot of fans are pivoting to, well, Epler should have did more at the trade deadline. I agree and I disagree with that. Yeah, I would like to have seen like a bigger bat, like a Wilson Contreras and everything. But they had enough. They definitely had enough to beat the Padres, as far as I'm concerned.
Mm-hmm.
You have Alonso, you have Nimmo, you have Lindor, you have Jeff McNeil, who just won the freaking batting title. You had Escobar, who finished the season really strong. There's a lot in that lineup that can beat the Mets. I just think the Mets were trying so hard to hit home runs all the time. They just didn't play their style.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? But to go out in a do-or-die Game 3 and just flat out embarrass yourself in front of the Mets fans, in front of all those people, trying to get fired up for Citi Field, trying to get them fired up to advance to go to LA to play the Dodgers and everything, it was just a freaking disgrace.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? And then if they didn't embarrass themselves enough, now we have a situation where Buck Showalter is basically accusing Joe Musgrove of cheating because they can't solve Joe Musgrove. So Buck's sitting there going, well, he has to be doctoring the ball with something, right? Because why aren't we getting any hits? That to me was such a freaking Bush League play by Buck. And that's a guy with veteran managerial experience. He's been a playoff manager. And granted, he's never won a World Series, but I mean, that was just bullshit. And it was a disgrace. And Gary Cohen said it perfectly on the broadcast. He said, if you're going to make an accusation like that, you better be right.
Yeah.
If you're wrong, you look like an asshole. And he didn't say that part. But I'm just saying, if you're wrong, you just look like an ass. You look foolish. And
I knew when Buck went out there to go check or asked for him to be checked. I'm like, he's trying to play a mental game here, try to throw him off or whatever. I think it was desperate. That's what the move was.
He was outmanaged by Bob Melvin. And listen, Met fans, I know you're pissed off. I'm pissed off. Klim's pissed off and everything. But let's not discount the San Diego Padres here. Okay? That's a pretty good freaking team. They may not have their pitching may not be as good as the Mets with Snell, Musgrove, and Darvish, but it's pretty close. They went all in at the trade deadline this year. All in. Juan Soto, Josh Bell, Brandon Drury, Josh Hader. To go with the rotation they have. They went all in. So you can't discount the fact that the Padres are a pretty good team. And the Mets, unfortunately, kind of stumbled into the postseason. I don't think they ever got over that series sweep to Atlanta. And it just kind of showed with the way they were on the field. It wasn't even a fact of whether they looked demoralized or anything. It's just that they looked like they weren't trying. It looked like there was no effort. It looked like there was nothing. And then, we're making excuses for Scherzer with the freaking oblique injury. Listen, if Scherzer's out there pitching, he's healthy as far as I'm concerned.
Right.
I'm not making excuses for the injury. I don't want to hear this bullshit from Mets fans about, Scherzer had the oblique injury. So what? He's out there pitching.
Yeah.
He shouldn't be fucking pitching if he has an oblique injury.
Yeah, and if he is hurt, he definitely should not be pitching Game 1. Take another day to rest.
And the thing was, Keith brought, I was talking to Keith about this before Game 1 when they put the postseason rosters out. He made a good point. He's like, they should have at least he left Taijuan Walker and Carrasco off the playoff roster for the wild card. Now, I'm assuming he did that because he's going to need Walker for Game 1 in LA if they go to Game 1, and Carrasco probably for Game 2.
Mm-hmm.
But the point is that you probably should have had at least one of those guys on the roster, just in case if Bassett struggles right out of the gate, you just pull him.
Yeah.
This is an all-hands-on-deck Game 3. And the thing was, it was humiliating to see the Mets only get one hit against Joe Musgrove. One. A bullshit single by Pete Alonso. And by the way, where the hell was he all series outside of a home run in Game 2? Where was Lindor in the series except for a home run in Game 2? They were nowhere to be found. Where was McNeil? Batting champion. I mean, come on, man. I mean, I get it. They don't have a great hitting catcher. That's not Nito's strength. But it's just the fact that that lineup was good enough to compete against the Padres. And with that home crowd behind them, there's no reason why the Mets should have put out that shitty of an effort against San Diego.
No, you're absolutely right. Like this team, I personally think the Mets were better up and down than what the Padres are putting out. Yet we got our asses handed to us each and every game.
But again, we can't dismiss the Padres as a shitty team. It's not an automatic slam dunk. You understand that, right?
No, I do.
It's not an automatic slam dunk. They're going to just sweep the Padres and be done with it. But just the effort, just the real, just laziness, just the way they came out, the way they just could not recover. It was almost like they gave up as soon as Scherzer gave up the 3-run homer to Bell. And Scherzer deserved to get booed out of Citi Field. He deserved it. He deserved it 1,000%. Because again, you bring in these big names. The Mets don't have the farm system like they used to. Their farm system is insanely top heavy. And you have money. That's how you bring these guys in. Marte, $72 million. Scherzer, $130 million. Canna got like over $20 million. Escobar got over $20 million. You bring in all these big time players. And the Mets, listen, they won 101 games this year. Alonso and Lindor had strong seasons. Diaz became a very dominant closer. The starting rotation pitched pretty well for the most part. And then you just see shit like that going into a postseason series, and it drives you fucking nuts.
Exactly. Especially like you said, like we said earlier, we won 101 games. We were in first place for 98% of the season. Scherzer pitched great. Alonso was having a great year. Lindor was having a great year. McNeil won the freaking batting title. Diaz solidified himself as the best closer in baseball. And, it was all these little things. And again, even at the beginning of the season, Uncle Steve went out and bought Scherzer. He got Bassett. He got Canha. He got Marte. He brought in Buck Showalter to be the manager. All the wheels were moving in the right direction for the Mets, and they were. And then they hit a stop called the Atlanta Braves, and that's where they got fucked up.
There's a lot of different things as to why the Mets had a shitty season. Because to be honest, I have to agree with people when they say it's really disappointing, because it is. You were in first place for the entire year outside of a few hiccups here and there. You had a 2.5-game lead in September over the Braves. You blew that lead. It came down to that series in Atlanta, and you didn't show up. You didn't show up. And I said it last week. I said they're going to be on fucking SNY talking about all the chances that got away and how we let the fans down and everything. You're damn right you let the fans down. Where's the leadership from Pete Alonso that I always hear about? I didn't see that. Where's the motivation from Buck? Light a fire under these guys' asses or something. They're getting their ass kicked on the field, and everybody just stands around. It's just strange. And I'm sorry, but over the last month, I've really questioned Buck's managing. It's been freaking shitty. And he was channeling his inner Luis Rojas with the whole, we're going to figure it out and whatever. No, you can't figure it out. You're the fucking manager of the team. You have to figure out. You got to push the right buttons here. I don't want to hear about what Epler didn't do at the deadline. Who cares? Would it really have mattered? Would it really have mattered if the Mets had gotten Wilson Contreras in this game? Would it really have made a difference when they're losing 6-2 and 7-1? And they're getting shut out 6-0 with one hit.
No, exactly. It's not like the Mets don't have good hitters. The Mets have good hitters. The Mets, outside of Machado, the Mets had the next 5 best hitters who were playing in that game. Again, you have Starling Marte, who hit over 290. You have Jeff McNeil, who won the fucking batting title. Pete Alonso, he cracked over 40 home runs. Lindor had over 100 RBIs. Nimmo is an on-base machine. You had the hitters. You could have put Aaron Judge in this lineup, and he wouldn't have helped. Like, you could have put Mike Trout in this lineup. He wouldn't have helped.
But again, now it comes to a point now with next year, with this free agent class, the Mets have a lot of free agents, man. They have a ton of free agents this offseason. You have, again, we were talking about just now. We will go over it again. We have Nimmo, who's a free agent, Bassett, DeGrom, Walker. They may opt out of Carlos Carrasco. I don't think it's a good idea, but, I mean, they might. You have Diaz is a free agent. Ottavino's a free agent. Lugo's a free agent. They have a ton of free agents right now. You know, you've got some position players coming back next year. I mean, pretty much most of your lineup will be intact. They may let Nimmo walk. You know, don't sleep on that possibility. I mean, I hate to see it because I think he's been a terrific spark plug. And they may just have Marte play center field next year.
I was gonna say you're gonna see a lot of young faces on this team this next year because I think right from day one you're gonna have Beatty and Vientos on the roster. And it's only going to be a matter of time before Alvarez gets called up next year.
I wouldn't be surprised if Alvarez makes the roster. I think Vientos is getting traded. I think he's going to be part of the.
He should have been traded a while ago.
Yeah, but I also think that now with the offseason, when teams start to figure out who's available, who's not available, I can definitely see the Mets finally putting together a package. But again, the other part of it too is, and I said this last time, there are so many of these magazines and baseball prospectus that overhypes these prospects. And it's like, look, I don't know what would have taken to get Luis Castillo on the Mets. Okay. But if it had meant trading a kid like Francisco Alvarez, I probably would have done it. Because the guy is under team control and it's one less starter you have to worry about. Mm-hmm. The Mets have gotten afraid of trading their best prospects. They don't want to trade them because last year when they traded for Javi Baez and they traded Pete Crow Armstrong, Javi Baez bolted and went to freaking Detroit. Mm-hmm. So the Mets have been burned for a long time. Now, at the end of the day, the Kelenic deal is a win for the Mets because Diaz has become an insanely dominant closer, while Kelenic is still striking out all the time. However, I think the Mets, as I said before, their prospect pool is way too top heavy. It's basically Alvarez, Beatty, Vientos, and who's the other guy? Mauricio. And Mauricio should be in a package already. Why isn't he? He should have been traded already. He's not going to lose. He's not going to take Lindor's job. He's not taking Lindor's job. Lindor is going to be the shortstop here for the next 10 years. Escobar is keeping the seat warm for Beatty next year, unless Beatty becomes the everyday third baseman and Escobar becomes the DH. Cannot, for what it's worth, I thought Cannot played pretty well. I don't have a problem with him. I'd love to have him back. I thought he was very good.
That year. He did what he was supposed to do. He did what he paid him to do. He didn't go any better. I would say slightly better than a little bit expectations, but he didn't do bad.
You know, I don't know what the market is for Brandon Nimmo this offseason. I have no idea. You know, he hits for decent power. He gets on base. He's got a great attitude. I mean, that's the kind of guy you want in your clubhouse, though. And I think the Mets value that. I think they know that. Mm-hmm. But something tells me they're going to try to get into an all-out bidding war for DeGrom. And I'm not saying let him go. I mean, I would definitely, you know, I think DeGrom owes the Mets to fucking say, look, this is what I'm getting. You want to match it or not?
Right.
Unless he just has no desire to come back to the Mets and he tells Steve Cohen, don't sign me, I'm not coming back.
Right.
You know, I mean, I don't really fucking understand what DeGrom's so bitter about because he's coming off very bitter in this whole thing. The Mets seem to have done right by him. He's, you know, they gave him a deal at the time. If he signed it, that's on him. I mean, he was getting paid $38 million, I think, a year. Mm-hmm. So I'm not sure I understand what the problem is. He just seems like, you know, in these press conferences, he just seems really bitter, like he doesn't want to be back. Well, okay, if you don't want to be back, then don't be back. And there'll be some stupid fans who will turn around and say, well, they should have traded him at the deadline when they had the chance. really going to fucking trade Jacob deGrom at the deadline when you're in first place?
No.
You know, like, you're going all in. I mean, these are the risks you take. If you're a good general manager, as I think Billy Epler has been for the Mets, I think he'll figure it out. But it's obvious there's changes. Changes have to be made on this roster.
No, it definitely does, because you can't trot out the same team as this year going into next year. You can't do it.
But it's just getting to the point where I'm getting sick and tired of being disappointed. We were always disappointed every year under the Wilpons. The Wilpons never spent money. The Wilpons only, made these oddball trades. The Wilpons alienated some of the players. The fan base hated them. And we were disappointed every year because we knew that the Mets should be a big market team, and they didn't spend like a big market team. And when they did finally make a splash, they make an unnecessarily risky trade for a closer and a second baseman who's well past his prime. And you trade one of the top prospects in the league. Now, at the end of the day, that worked out better for the Mets than it did for the Mariners. But it was still a risk. If I have to do that deal again 3 years ago, I'm not making that trade.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not trading Kelenic for Diaz. I'm just not, because, and there was I remember at the time there was a story going around that the Phillies were really interested in getting Diaz, and they were going to pull the trigger on a trade, and the Mets panicked and made the deal. Now, at the end of, like I said, luckily, Diaz was one of the most dominant closers in the league this year. You have to bring him back. You don't really have a choice. You can't afford to lose him.
Right.
But I'm sick and tired of being disappointed. Like I said, we were disappointed all those years with the Wilpons. We finally get an owner who spends money. And Steve Cohen did exactly as advertised. He spent money. He gave Scherzer the highest average annual value contract in Major League Baseball. He gave Marte $72 million. He gave Canha another $26 million. He gave Escobar another $20 million, $25 million. Okay? The Mets spent a shitload of money this offseason on players. And we were riding high in first place for the majority of the season. But the crazy thing was, and I'm going to agree with a quote that the AJ Minter, the Braves reliever, said. He said, the Mets didn't blow the division. We just played better.
Yeah.
And he's not wrong. Because if you look at the two records, the Mets were like 20 games over 500 in the second half of the season. It wasn't like they had completely collapsed, like to the point where they were losing 10 in a row and 5 in a row and everything. I don't even think they had a losing streak of 4 games in a row all year long. I think the highest they've ever lost was 3 in a row to the Braves, or maybe 4, but not more than that.
Yeah, I would say the Mets were playing good.
It was very simple. The Mets were taking 2 out of 3. The Braves were sweeping series. All those games add up. All those games add up. A game here, a game there, a game here. DeGrom didn't pitch that great in Atlanta twice. Twice he didn't pitch that great in Atlanta. When they needed him to pitch well, he didn't pitch well.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not blaming Jacob deGrom. I'm just saying, I'm just stating fact. But that weekend series was just it was a downer of epic proportions. And they never recovered from it. They never recovered. And the thing is, again, it's, they just never get up for big games. Never. No matter how many times I've seen it. It happened last year too under Rojas. It happened the year before under Rojas when they were in the wild card hunt. And they couldn't stay alive. The trades they made were fine. Getting guys like Naquin and Ruff, Ruff sucks, but Vogelbach, Naquin, Givens was actually pretty decent in the second half of the year when they got him. But I understand what Met fans are saying. The Mets were in a prime position to land a big-time player, and they didn't do it. The Braves, meanwhile, went out and got Robbie Grossman, Iglesias from the Angels. They made smart moves.
Mm-hmm.
I'll never understand why Epler traded 4 players to get Darren Ruff. That just made no sense to me. Okay? You traded a very promising reliever in Colin Holderman to get Vogelbach. I like Vogelbach. I don't know if I would have traded Colin Holderman to get him because Colin Holderman was actually a pretty good reliever for the Mets.
And especially when we were already weak at reliever.
But I think at the end of the day, it's just another disappointment. And then, like I said, to double down on it with this, Joe Musgrove has every right to be pissed off at the Mets. The Padres organization has every right to be pissed off at the Mets. There were even some Met fans today claiming that, they know he cheated and they know he cheated. I mean, come on. Guys. Like, can we just and this is what I mean about this fan base. You're looking for these lame-ass excuses, but you're ignoring the fact that when it was a do-or-die Game 3, they flat out sucked. It had nothing to do with Joe Musgrove. Joe Musgrove just pitched lights-out baseball. It's like the excuses that are made for this team sometimes by some of these fans, it drives me crazy.
Yeah, like I was listening to the radio earlier today, and people, like you said, people were complaining, this is Joe Musgrove's fault. How? He didn't cheat. The umps literally had a whole conversation about it, checked his ears, checked everything on him. He came back clean. All right, fine. That's nothing you can do there. We just look like jackasses then.
But it was like you couldn't beat Darvish, you couldn't beat Musgrove, and you kind of had a tough time with Snell. You didn't play that great against Snell. I don't want to hear about Eric Chavez if that's an excuse. These guys should know how to hit. They should know how to hit.
Mm-hmm.
It was just, that's it. It's just, but I have a hard time just getting excited for the Mets these days because they just always find a way to let me down. And it's just frustrating. And, figures the year that the Mets win 101 games, they collapse to losing the fucking division. Judge sets the new record for the AL East. The Yankees are up by fucking 10 games. It's just not worth it anymore. Like, it's just not. Mm-hmm. And I think this is going to be a major step back next year. I don't see this team being that good next year. I don't.
Well, that's how it always is with the Mets. They'll make the world. It's like, oh, great, we have such a good team this year, and it's like, bam, we suck next year.
Yeah, the Phillies are going to be a better team next year. The Braves are going to be an elite team next year. I don't know what to say about the Nationals, depending on how the Nationals attack free agency, but, they've got a really good young nucleus. And I think the Mets are in a bit of disarray right now. I don't think they're going to be a good team next year. I'm not sure. I'm really not sure how the Mets are going to be. And, of course, the fucking Phillies advance. They sweep the Cardinals in 2 games. So the Mets are the 3rd best team now in the National League East. So, I don't know. This fucking team just pisses me off. So I've just about had it. Like, this is why I'm a football guy all the way. Like, I love the Mets, but I don't live and die watching every fucking baseball game. And I can't give my money to Citi Field anymore. Like, I just can't. Sorry. I'd rather go see, like, the Brooklyn.
It's too stressful. Like, I almost went to the game yesterday, too. I'm so glad I didn't.
I have a friend. I don't really talk to him that much, but he's one of those guys that loves to gloat when he goes somewhere. So, right. He always has to gloat on Facebook that he's at Citi Field for the Met game, or he's at, this and that. If there's any reason why I'm happy the Mets lost is because when they lose, he goes quiet. He goes into fucking hiding. He doesn't fucking say a word. But when they're winning, he's like gloating all over Facebook and talking shit and everything. When they're losing, he goes into fucking hibernation all the time.
Oh, yeah.
In that sense, I'm happy the Mets lost, so I don't have to fucking hear him ever open his mouth. And that's how – so I guess in retrospect, there's a little light at the end of my tunnel. So we won't waste our time talking about the Yankees because we already know they're going to beat the Guardians. So there. So, all right, let's jump to football really quickly on the show. What do you want to do, Jets or Giants first?
Let's go Jets, since we are Jets people. We are Jets, and the fact that they looked real good yesterday.
We've always said it on the show. We've always talked about it, Klim and I, and there's a plan, but it requires patience. Jet fans don't have any. The Jets beat writers don't have any. They don't have any patience because they've been covering a shitty team for years. Jet fans have been watching shitty football for years. And when they hired Joe Douglas and they hired Robert Saleh to be the head coach, it was about rebuilding the foundation. The alarming part about the Jets was it wasn't the fact that the draft picks were busts in general. It was the fact that the draft picks that they made aren't even in the league anymore.
Mm-hmm.
There is a good portion of first-round picks that are no longer in the league. I'm not talking about guys like Calvin Pryor. I'm talking about guys like Darren Lee. I'm talking about even second-round picks, third-round picks. All these guys are gone. You know, and the only way you're ever going to have sustainable success, and Joe Douglas is 1,000% right, is you have to build the foundation. The only way you do that is through the draft. You have to hit on your draft picks. If you don't hit on your draft picks, it's going to set your franchise back. And that's pretty much it. And the fact is that now you're finally starting to see these guys, the draft picks that Douglas has made over the last couple of years, especially this draft class, which could go down as one of the best in history, the 2022 class. Garrett Wilson, Sauce Gardner, Breece Hall, they're all contributing. Shit, Klim, Max Mitchell was contributing as a right tackle, and he was a fourth-round pick.
They all look great. They all look fantastic.
I mean, isn't that insane when a fourth-round pick can go into a position at right tackle and pretty much have the odds stacked against him because he's not supposed to be playing. He's just supposed to be kind of learning this year. And listen, was Max Mitchell good? He was okay. But for a fourth-round pick who's a developmental project, I'll take it.
Oh, absolutely. And even look at a guy like you look at last year's draft. Look at AVT. He's been phenomenal.
He's our MVP.
Yeah. He's our best player.
Like, he is our freaking MVP. The guy went from right guard to left tackle when Fant got hurt. And then last week, Dwayne Brown comes back. You see the difference with Dwayne Brown being on the line.
Mm-hmm.
And now you move AVT to right tackle, and he doesn't miss a beat.
He's good.
Doesn't miss a beat. Now, the one thing I loved about this game on Sunday was the fact that the Jets just stuck with the run.
Mm-hmm.
They have a tendency to abandon the run too much, like quickly. And I get it. When you're behind, you have no choice. You have to throw. But they stuck with Breece Hall. They stuck with Michael Carter. And it paid off. Zach Wilson didn't have to carry the team on his back. He was just a game manager in this game yesterday. But you know what the important thing was about Zach's performance yesterday? Didn't turn the ball over.
Yep.
No picks, no fumbles. Scored a touchdown on a really hard-nosed rushing play. That's what you love to see. I love the fact, first play of the game, Sauce Gardner on a blitz.
Yes.
Knocked Teddy Bridgewater right out of the game. Just like that.
Loved it. Absolutely loved it.
I mean, but what's even more impressive about the Jets right now, Klim, is how they are dominating the fourth quarter. They are completely outplaying teams in the final quarter. When was the last time you could say that about any Jets team? Maybe not since the Rex days when they went to the championship game. They are completely. I think they're outscoring teams in the fourth quarter like 79-20.
Woo!
That is insane. That's insane how much they are outscoring these teams.
Jesus.
Down 10 last week against the Steelers, they come back and win. Up 2 on the Dolphins in the fourth quarter, just completely steamrolled them the rest of the game. Carl Lawson is starting to round into form. Quinnen Williams is having an amazing season.
Mm-hmm.
Now you got Carl Lawson coming off the edge. See the strip sack he made?
Just looked real good.
Somehow he managed to push Gesicki out of the way and use his other arm to smack the ball out of the quarterback's hands.
Like, what you're seeing from the Jets, and like you mentioned earlier, you have to just wait for the foundation to be set, and then that's when you can see the ball rolling, and that's what we're seeing right now. This team is looking fantastic on all levels. Secondary has gotten better since week 1. D line looks great.
They have
CJ Mosley.
arguably the two best cornerbacks in the league right now with DJ Reed and Sauce.
Mm-hmm.
Safeties are getting better. Whitehead's been playing a lot better.
Yes.
Since the first couple of games. They're getting after the quarterback. They're getting a rush. I think Bryce Huff being in the lineup has been definitely paid dividends because his speed off the edge is something you have to be concerned about. JFM is quietly playing well in the middle.
Mm-hmm.
You look at the offense. Garrett Wilson, Elijah Moore, Uzama was involved. You know, it was kind of funny the other day. It was like, I think it was, I forgot who it was. They're already calling CJ Uzama like this terrible signing. It was a huge waste of money. I mean, like, we're already jumping to conclusions after 4 games. 4 games, Klim. We're already jumping to conclusions. And I don't want to hear about the fact that, well, the Jets beat a third-string quarterback or whatever. I don't want to hear that shit. I'm sick of listening to that, too. It's probably a pretty popular Dolphin fan argument right now.
Yeah.
Okay? The fact is, you lost. You had to play a third-string quarterback? Too bad, so sad. No one cares. Because we have – you want to talk about a team dealing with injuries, look at the Jets. Look how many guys they lost last year to injury. Look how many linemen they lost this year to injury.
Mm-hmm.
Brown didn't even start the season. Fant's out. Becton's out for the season. Mitchell's out for a few weeks. But you're finally seeing, like, the foundation. I'm not going to get too crazy about it, though. I'm not. I mean, listen, I'd sign up for 3-2 right now any day of the week, especially with the schedule that they've played. And they've beaten teams that are good. But you see, now all of a sudden everybody downplays the schedule, right? Because, you know, everybody picked the Steelers to beat the Jets in week 3, but now that the Steelers got blown out by Buffalo yesterday, it's like, well, the Jets played Kenny Pickett and Mitch Trubisky, so, you know, it's not that big of a deal. Okay? It's not the Jets' fault that the Dolphins don't know how to fucking handle a simple concussion protocol.
Yeah.
Know not to play Tua. So I don't want to hear it. We didn't have our quarterback for the first 3 weeks of the season. We didn't have our quarterback for the first 3 weeks and the entire preseason. So you have to excuse me if I'm not sympathetic to the Dolphin fan plight of not having Tua. That's your coach's problem. So the Jets played an all-around really good game. And sometimes you just take it as like, just enjoy a win. Don't look too deep into it. Don't start calling them a playoff team. Don't start telling everybody that the narrative has changed and now it's a new thing. No, because that's how you people let yourself down. Because then when the Jets don't live up to your lofty expectations, you're whining on social media. You're whining about the team on Facebook and all these other places. You're calling the radio shows, complaining about the Jets being a shitty team and everything. Temper the expectations. Enjoy it. We're 3-2. We're 3-2 right now. It doesn't mean we're going to the playoffs. It doesn't mean anything. It just means we're 1 game over 500, and we have had the luxury. We've had the pleasure of enjoying 3 wins. And the team is exciting. The team is interesting again. Coming back from 2 touchdowns down to beat Cleveland in week 2. Coming back from 10 down to beat the Steelers. Nobody picked the Jets to beat the Dolphins yesterday. No, there's no way the Jets will win 2 in a row. I don't blame them. I'm not trying to like say that people are stupid. I'm just saying I don't blame them. I was skeptical. But they came back and did it. And you see the playmakers. Breece Hall, Garrett Wilson, Zach Wilson making plays. Corey Davis, I think, has been terrific to start the season.
Everyone's playing great.
One other thing I love about Breece Hall and Michael Carter is they don't want to go down. They're going to keep fighting for yardage. Every time they're going to keep fighting for yardage. And maybe the Dolphins just aren't as good as we thought they were going to be. I love the fact that Quinn Williams ran over Tyreek Hill on that fumble.
Look, you could say all you want, like, oh yeah, the Jets played the third string quarterback. Okay, cool, whatever. But they were still playing against a very good Dolphins defense. The Dolphins defense is nothing to joke about. It's pretty good, and the Jets put up 40 points on them.
Yeah. And it was all done on the ground.
Exactly.
You know, Zach almost had a 70-yard touchdown pass to Breece Hall. He got stopped at the 1-yard line.
Oh, that was great.
Berrios on the jet sweep. We've been wanting to see a Berrios jet sweep forever.
Michael Carter, 2 touchdowns.
Yeah. Everybody's contributing, though. And the key part of yesterday, too, for Zach's development is no mistakes. The running game was working. The offensive line was doing their job. And Zach wasn't put in a position where he had to pull a miracle out of his ass or make these, really, really questionable throws into traffic.
Mm-hmm.
Did what he had to do. And that's all you could ask for from Zach. Those are the types of games you look forward to. Tom Brady didn't throw for 3 touchdowns every week. He didn't throw for 350 yards every week. A lot of these quarterbacks, you're like more impressed by the stats, but you don't watch the game.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I loved about Zach. He just knew when he had to get rid of the ball, and he knew not to make any risky throws. That, my friends, is development. Watching Saleh go apeshit on the sideline. Like, I miss that. I miss watching Saleh go crazy, man. Like, he hasn't had a lot to go crazy about. He was freaking fired up yesterday. You could not have asked for a better performance from a young team. And it's starting to click. It's starting to click. Now, if you can get through the next 2 games at like 500, Green Bay and then Denver, who quite frankly, I think they're both beatable. I'm not sold on Green Bay.
Neither am I.
I think Green Bay has missed the boat too many times on getting in Aaron Rodgers an elite receiver, and it came back to burn them against the Giants.
No, I was saying it earlier today to someone. The Packers are a very beatable team. They're not that great. The defense is not living up to the hype that they were. Aaron Rodgers has no one on offense to throw to except for Aaron Jones. And that's it. They got nothing this year. The Packers are not this great team. It's very possible we can beat them.
And for all the people who doubted Zach, again, I just want to see development from Zach this year. I want to see him finish the season healthy, but at the same time, I just want to see him, not be prone to making stupid mistakes. And that was another thing I loved about yesterday. He utilized so many different receivers. Between Breece, between Wilson, their stats didn't go off the charts except for Breece. Garrett Wilson didn't have a great stat day. Elijah Moore didn't have a great stat day. Uzama didn't have a great stat day. Conklin didn't even have a catch in the game. But they spread the ball out nice. LaFleur had a very good game plan on how to beat Miami. And not for nothing, I really enjoyed seeing Mike McDaniel suffer. Because I am so sick of Mike McDaniel. Okay? I'm so sick of hearing about Mike McDaniel. It's like everybody was sucking him off after the first, game or two when he was undefeated. And I said this last week when we talked about the Tua injury. I said that could be the downfall to their season. Because right now you have no clue when Tua's coming back. And now, oh, by the way, Teddy Bridgewater has a concussion. So right now, just enjoy it. But you know what, too, though? And I'm going to rip the Jet fan a little bit here. There's always that fucking group of Jet fans who can never be satisfied with a win.
Yeah.
You got to nitpick every little shit thing. And I saw it on Facebook, and it drove me crazy. And I was about to rip some of these guys because, again, they just can't enjoy a win. Oh, Zach didn't have a throwing touchdown. That's what people were complaining about yesterday.
Who cares?
Zach didn't throw a touchdown yesterday, so I don't know if he's the future of the team. The offensive line is in shambles. They're just making shit up.
Yeah.
I would say the only thing that needs to be fixed right now, the rushing defense has to be better.
Yes.
Mostert kind of ran all over them yesterday. Their linebackers are still weak, although Quan Alexander has played really well. But just enjoy a win, man. I haven't seen a game like that where they just freaking trounced over the Dolphins in one quarter, and I can't remember.
That's our first division win since 2019. People should just be happy we won the fucking game. Don't nitpick shit. Be happy that we steamrolled the Dolphins when we had to steamroll the Dolphins. We always talk about the games that, oh, we should have beat them because of this, or we should have beat them because of that. That's what the Jets did today. They took full advantage of the third-string quarterback being in and steamrolled them right over them. That's exactly what the Jets are supposed to do. That's what any team is supposed to do when the third-string quarterback is in playing the game. They're supposed to beat them. They beat their asses, and that's exactly what happened. Sauce had a great game. The defensive line played great. Michael Carter and Breece Hall looked fantastic. Zach Wilson looked like a great game manager out there. Be happy for that shit. Don't be mad because Zach didn't. Sure, would I have liked Zach to throw a touchdown? Sure, everyone wants to see Zach throw touchdowns. But if you don't need Zach to throw a touchdown, it's fine. Breece Hall, a touchdown. Michael Carter, 2 touchdowns.
Yeah.
Barrios, a touchdown. Zach Wilson, a rushing touchdown.
At the end of the day, you got to win. But more importantly, it's like, 2 weeks ago or the last time we did a show, we were questioning if the Jets, maybe it's more at the beginning of the year, we were questioning Robert Saleh. We were questioning if Robert Saleh was the answer to this for the team.
Mm-hmm.
Because they just didn't look like they had any life in them. I think it was right after the Bengal game.
Yeah.
When they lost to the Bengals. And you and I were furious that the Jets just didn't, coming off a huge win against Cleveland, they play Cincinnati at home and they look completely dead in the water.
Mm-hmm.
Flacco looked like he didn't give a shit. The offense was terrible. They couldn't run the football. The defense was getting beaten up all up and down the field. I mean, listen, think about what had happened. They've won 2 in a row. They're in second place right now in the AFC East, which doesn't really mean a lot, but still, they're in second place. When was the last time we could say we're in second place in anything?
No, you're absolutely right. And I said it when Zach was coming back last week. I said it to people I knew who were Jets fans and everything. I'm like, I think Zach is going to turn this team around. And it's not just the offense. I think it's going to be the defense, too. His presence out there is just going to make everything so different for the Jets. And you're seeing that. You really are. The defense is playing better since Zach's return.
But the problem is a lot of people are very quick to rush to judgment. Okay? If Zach is not Brady in the first 6 weeks of his career, dump him. I don't want him.
Yeah.
Okay? And again, you listen to shitheels like Evan Roberts and Brandon Tierney on these shows who are very quick to dismiss these guys automatically because all they give a shit about is wins. You listen to an old kook like freaking Joe Beningo, who has made his career basically thanks to the Jets being such a bad team. Okay? And you listen to this schmuck go on WFAN, and he's like, oh, well, they're hiding Mike White, because they think Mike White can't play. They think Mike White's better than Zach Wilson. What the fuck are you talking about? We have no patience anymore for these people. We forget that it takes time to develop a quarterback. It's not done overnight anymore. And think about it. Right now, in my opinion, Zach Wilson is having a better season. Trevor Lawrence has a huge problem holding on to the football.
Mm-hmm.
Turns the ball over like crazy. He's had 7 turnovers in 2 weeks. He was awful yesterday against the Jaguars, against the Texans at home. They didn't even score a touchdown. Justin Fields will continue to get a pass because the Bears have no weapons. Mac Jones is hurt. I mean, Zach's making plays, man. But nobody's going to give him the respect. No one. No one's going to give him the respect.
No one ever will. And because it's like, because it's the Jets, that's why. And it's like, and we've said it time and time again whenever we talk about the Jets, everyone just loves to have the Jets as their punching bag. That's what it is. Zach's going to get no respect ever. Trevor Lawrence is godly in everyone's eyes still, and he still is. I still think he can be great. And like you mentioned, Justin Fields has
better. Here's the thing about Trevor Lawrence, Klim. He should be better. He's not better, in my opinion. You know why he's not better? He's supposed to be this once-in-a-generational prospect.
Mm-hmm.
That's what we fucking heard about Trevor Lawrence, right? When the Jets when the Jets won those games under Gase and they knocked themselves out of getting Trevor Lawrence, everybody, now listen, I didn't know much about Zach Wilson either. So, I mean, I was as clueless about Zach Wilson as the next person was. The problem is that this is supposed to be a once in a generational prospect. This was supposed to be that player since Andrew Luck. Okay? And right now, Clem, I don't see it. And we're now in a second year. So what's the excuse going to be this year if he struggles? You can't blame it on Urban Meyer anymore. You can't blame it on the talent on the team. He's got plenty of weapons.
Mm-hmm.
What is it going to be now? Well, there's not an elite receiver. The Jacksonville Jaguars gave Christian Kirk $84 million to be that elite receiver.
Right.
And he has played well for the most part through the first 4 or 5 games. But Trevor threw a brutal interception yesterday in the red zone against the Texans.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't want to hear it anymore. If he doesn't produce this year, I don't want to hear it. I don't want to listen to anymore about Trevor Lawrence. I won't label him a bust, but I'm not going to listen to people on ESPN and all these other channels telling me that, giving some lame-ass excuse why he's a failure. Same thing with Justin Fields. I don't want to hear it anymore. I'm tired of listening to it. I'm tired. You people gave freaking Sam Darnold a pass because he didn't have the talent around him. And then he went to Carolina with more talent than he ever had in New York, and he still sucked. And they pivoted right back to the Jets. The Jets fucked him up. It's not Carolina's fault. It's not Matt Rule's fault. It's not Joe Brady's fault, even though he got Joe Brady fired. Nope. Jets' fault immediately. So apparently it was the Jets' job to build Sam Darnold up for Carolina to win a Super Bowl. Yeah, that makes perfect sense.
Oh, by the way, Matt Rule got fired today.
Yeah,
so let's not
Matt Rule. Everybody's golden boy for the head coaching job when Gase got the job in New York. Well, they should have hired Matt Rule. Mike McCagnon didn't want him to bring in his coaches. He brought in his coaches, and what would happen? He was terrible. They all were terrible.
I'm not gonna lie. I wanted Matt Rule here. I'm not gonna lie.
I was fine with Matt Rule, but I'm not going to sit here and go crazy about Matt Rule.
Right.
Just because he turned around a program at Baylor and he turned around a program at Temple. College is different than the pros. You have to know that by now. A 19-year-old kid on a football scholarship is going to listen to everything his coach says so he can play. That strategy doesn't work in the NFL more times than not. Mm-hmm. Because no athlete making $7 million a year is going to start listening to a culture change from a fucking coach.
Mm-hmm.
And the Carolina Panthers have been outright bad. They're bad. He made a panic move to get Baker Mayfield, and it backfired, and it cost him his job. Baker Mayfield has looked terrible over the last few weeks. Now he has a high ankle sprain, so he's probably not going to play for a while. Darnold is still hurt. The Carolina Panthers are a brutally bad team right now. They have a good defense, though. But just an outright terrible team. Matt Rule didn't last he didn't last 6 games before they canned his ass. 6 games. And they already fired his ass. And who did they replace him with? Steve Wilkes, who had hands down one of the worst coaching years ever for a coach in Arizona. No. All the Jets fans that wanted Matt Rule, who was like, "Oh, I wanted Rule. See, I told you I wanted Rule." Now they're all going to hiding. They all claim they didn't want him. How do you think Robbie Anderson feels right now in Carolina, knowing his coach got fired?
Yeah.
He's done squat in Carolina, except occasionally catch a 50-yard bomb.
Schmuck.
I mean, I'm not surprised Rule got fired. I'm not surprised in the least. But the truth is that it was always going to end that way. He was not going to lead them to the playoffs. They were not going to be a playoff team. So my advice to Jet fans at the end of the day is just enjoy it. Just enjoy being, these wins. Take it one game at a time. Because you know what, man? I loved what the Let's Talk Jets radio guys said. Tyson Roush, he's awesome. He was like, he said he was tired of. He did a video. You should check it out on YouTube. He was talking about how everybody's saying that the Jets got lucky because they had to play a third-string quarterback in Miami, and they had to play Mitch Trubisky. They got to play Mitch Trubisky and Kenny Pickett, right? And he made a really valid point. If the Jets lose those games, you're just going to keep calling them the same old Jets.
Yeah.
That's what you're going to do. You're just going to call them the same old Jets, and he's 1,000% right. It's going to become back to the Jets are a dumpster fire, the Jets are a shitty team, and everything. Just enjoy the wins. This is what I love. I love enjoying Victory Monday. I don't know if the Jets are going to be a playoff team this year. I think they're going to win 7 or 8 games, though. I think that's definitely in the cards.
I said that at the beginning of the year. I
might go to the game against the Lions in December.
You know, I said it a couple minutes ago. The Jets wins that we have these are the games we had to win. We had to beat the Browns. You know, there's no excuse as to why the Jets aren't as good, if not better, than the Browns, and we proved that. Yeah. You know, the Jets, the Steelers, they don't have T.J. Watt. They're playing with 2 bum quarterbacks. You have to beat the Steelers.
You know what? Last year we didn't have Carl Lawson for an entire season.
Exactly. But again, that's the thing. You have to capitalize on these opportunities. They're not playing with T.J. Watt. Cool. Attack it, and that's what we did. We beat the. Oh, okay. You're not playing with Tua, and Teddy Bridgewater gets hurt. Great. Let's play some fucking smash mouth football. And that's what the Jets did. You know, they're winning the games that they're supposed to right now, and it's looking real good. Now we're going to go into Green Bay on Sunday, and it should be the same thing. Oh, Aaron Rodgers didn't have any wide receivers to throw to. Bam. Let's play some smash mouth football. The defense isn't up to snuff this year. Bam. Smash mouth football. All gas, no brakes. Just like Salah said, this is what it's got to be now.
A few NFL notes really quickly before I want to just talk about the Giants because the Giants had a great win yesterday against Green Bay. Got to give them props for that. Before we get into that, you know, I'm going to say it right now, Klim, and I'm sure I'll make a lot of enemies. Kyler Murray sucks.
He's not good. He's not good. Me and you have said this since day one. I don't want to
hear it anymore about Kyler Murray. I am sick of listening to it. I remember like 2 years ago when Mike Guido was like, oh, yeah, he's going to be an MVP. He sucks. He is terrible. I don't want to hear it anymore about him. He is not, for $250 million, he has done absolutely nothing to impress me with his level of play. I don't want to hear about DeAndre Hopkins being suspended. If DeAndre Hopkins is a dumbass and doesn't know what he puts into his body, that's on him. Okay? You have Hollywood Brown. You have a couple of good receivers. Your team sucks. Kingsbury is just not a good coach for them. He's not a good coach. And he's probably going to get his ass fired after this year too. But Kyler Murray stinks. And I'm sick and tired of people telling me that he's going to be really good or they're going to make some lame-ass excuse for him as to why he's not good. Okay? That's the first thing. The second thing is, if I have to predict right now a coach that's on the verge of getting canned, and it's going to be kind of a surprising one, is Brandon Staley. You want to know why I think Brandon Staley's going to get fired? Because he's too much of a risk taker. He's a cowboy. He's always trying to, he goes for it on 4th and 2, up by 2 points at the 50. At the 50-yard line. You don't need to do that. What happens? Incomplete. Can you imagine if that guy makes the field goal for the Browns? Brandon Staley is, I understand, listen, everybody will say, well, he's being aggressive. I love the aggressiveness. You have to know when to be aggressive, though. You could be costing your team games. You have to know when to be aggressive. When you're up by 2 points with about 2 minutes left to play on a 4th and 2 at midfield, you don't have to go for it. Mm-hmm. Punt it, let your defense get you a stop. Trust your defense to get you a stop. It's very odd that a defensive coordinator doesn't have confidence in his defense to get a stop on Jacoby Brissett. It's very odd. Normally, a defensive coach would want their defense on the field to stop it. Mm-hmm. And he's lucky that kid missed that field goal. Because if he made that field goal, Brandon Staley would have a lot to be asking. He would have a lot of questions to be answering the next day.
And it's not like the Chargers have a bad defense. They have a pretty good defense, the Chargers. You just can't.
I know they don't have Joey Bosa, but I mean, give me a break. You have Khalil Mack. You have a good secondary. Have some confidence in these guys. Like, it seems like he doesn't have any confidence in them.
Yeah, like you have good guys. Like you have a good defense. Like you said, yeah, you don't have Joey Bosa. All right, that's a key part of you missing any defense, but you still have just like the Steelers. Yeah, you're missing your key defensive weapon, but you have other guys on that defense who can make up for the loss of TJ Watt because you have a good secondary. You have some decent linebackers. Like there's no excuse as to why Brandon Staley should be going for it. It's like you have a good defense. Let your defense play.
Dallas won again with Cooper Rush, which is a kind of a major indictment on Dak Prescott, but they seem to really believe in Cooper Rush right now, and Prescott's coming back pretty soon. So I don't know what that means for. I don't know what it means. I mean, I think Dak will go back into the starting role anyway because I think they've invested too much money. But.
Craig, I think we said it last year or maybe 2 years ago when Dak got injured and he was looking for a big contract. And I don't know who the quarterback was, but we said it, and I agreed with you. You said it, and you were just like, if this whatever ex quarterback comes in here and plays good over Dak, that's an indictment on Dak, and that's exactly what we're seeing right now with Cooper Rush. Cooper Rush is playing great football, and it's an indictment on Dak.
Mm-hmm. And now you're in a tricky spot because now if Dak comes back this week, which is a possibility. I don't know if it's official yet. I mean, you have nothing. What are you going to do? Jerry Jones is going to tell you to play Dak Prescott because he loves Dak Prescott. He understands that Cooper Rush got him to where he is at 4-1, but I've said for a while, man, what has Dak won? What has he won? What is he, what has he won that makes me believe that he is the answer to all of Dallas's prayers? Because I don't know. And then you have, again, probably the worst Thursday night football game I've ever seen in history with the Colts and the Broncos. And Nathaniel Hackett once again making a stupid mistake on a 4th down when he could have just kicked the field goal and seen if you could stop the Colts for one more shot. And it was funny because Keith and I were talking, and I said, he asked me if I thought that Russell Wilson's level of play has to do with his age. I said, I don't. I said, I think it's the fact that the Broncos were convinced that when they hired Nathaniel Hackett to be the head coach, they were going to land Aaron Rodgers. I said, that's what I think. And when they didn't land Aaron Rodgers, they pivoted right to Russell Wilson. I don't know if Russell Wilson knows how to run this offense. But one thing I will say, again, another overrated aspect of a team, the Broncos receivers to me are just okay. I don't think Jerry Jeudy is that great. I don't think Cortland Sutton is that great. But they're overhyped. I don't know. I just think the Broncos they're just not a good. They're a boring offensive team. I don't think Wilson's been good at all.
On paper, the Broncos offense should be the best offense in the league. You have a great quarterback. In Russell Wilson. Prior to Javonte Williams going down, you had a good running back duo with him and Melvin Gordon. A 3-headed wide receiver monster with Sutton, Jeudy, and Kamler. And you have a pretty decent offensive line on paper. This is all on paper. But you watch them, and it's like, ugh. Like, this is what Russell Wilson is? I was expecting big things out of Jerry Jeudy and Cortland Sutton.
Klim, they gave Russell Wilson another quarterback who got $250 million to play there. And it's like, what the hell are you guys doing with these guys? It's insane. It's absolutely insane how you're giving these guys all this money, Kyler Murray, Russell Wilson, and they're doing squat.
Mm-hmm.
They're doing squat. Arizona stinks. And I'm not saying it's entirely Murray's fault. The Arizona defense sucks, too. But you're paying him $250 million to lead your franchise. And right now, he's leading your franchise nowhere.
Yeah.
You gave Russell Wilson a huge contract. He was going into a very difficult division. And he looks old. He looks slow. He's not communicating with these receivers well. I mean, the Colts sucked to begin with, and I know they lost Jonathan Taylor, and I know they lost Naheem Hines and everything. But the Colts are another team where every year you're changing the quarterback to the latest 36, 37-year-old. What is that going to do?
Nothing.
Matt Ryan looks his age. The Colts don't have a number one receiver, in my opinion. Michael Pittman is not a number one receiver. No wonder why your offense sucks. So back to the Giants. They get a huge win in London over the Packers. I will say right now that one guy that's definitely going to get some head coaching interviews next year is Wink Martindale for the way he completely shut down Aaron Rodgers in the second half of that game. Now, the only thing I'll say about the Giants is that while Saquon Barkley has been tremendous this year, it's not sustainable. Daniel Jones sucks. He stinks. They don't have a very good receiving core. So they are lucky that Saquon Barkley has been getting them all these yards and putting up big numbers. And he almost got hurt yesterday too. But you see the way they play for Daboll. They love that guy. They're playing hard for Brian Daboll. The one thing I will say right now is, and I've said this about coaches in the past, what's the one thing I always say about first-year head coaches? You are playing with house money.
Yep.
The odds, there's no risk. There's plenty of reward, little to no risk whatsoever. I would say there is a 1% chance you will get fired as a head coach in your first year. Unless you look so incompetent that you just can't get your shit together. That's the only way that's going to be possible.
Steve Wilkes.
Steve Wilkes is exactly that person. Okay? You are not going to – but the Giants players are playing hard. They have a good young nucleus. Kayvon Thibodeau actually played pretty well yesterday. Their offensive line is playing a lot better. At the end of the day, though, Daniel Jones stinks. So you're going to probably be in the market for next year. But here's the problem: you're not going to get a quarterback in the draft if you keep winning.
Yeah.
So you're not going to get C.J. Stroud if that's who you want, and if he even is in the top 5 of quarterbacks. I have no idea. So then they're going to pivot. They're going to try, I wouldn't be surprised if they try to get Lamar Jackson, although I don't know if that's going to happen. I have a feeling the Ravens and them will figure it out. I just don't see the Ravens letting them go.
Mm-hmm.
But the Giants played hard. But what you also saw, too, is the fact that the Packers just aren't as good as everybody makes them out to be.
Yeah.
That's not a knock on the Giants, by the way.
It's not.
It's not a knock on the Giants. The Giants played a great game against a team that was better than them. The Packers just didn't. I think that everybody gets so in awe of Aaron Rodgers, they just never pick against the Packers. And the Packers just look like a very vulnerable team.
Look, Rodgers is, and like I said it when we were talking about the Jets, that it's very possible that the Jets could go in next week and beat the Packers because they are not looking too great. Again, yeah, you have Aaron Rodgers, cool. But Aaron Rodgers doesn't have Devontae Adams anymore. He doesn't have Jordy Nelson. Aaron Jones can't do everything. A.J. Dillon can't do everything. And those are just 2 running backs. Your defense isn't looking too hot.
I think about, like Rex Ryan said it on ESPN this morning. He said Randall Cobb was a good receiver 8 years ago. Yeah. Now he's more of a number 3, and they're treating him like a number 1. He's not really a number 1 anymore. And that's all people have been saying for years about the Packers is they just never given Aaron Rodgers like a legitimate number 1. They had him with Devontae Adams and they traded him.
Yeah.
But they never replaced him. It's unfair to expect a guy like Romeo Doubs to be that number 1. It's unfair to expect a guy like Alan Lazard, no matter how much Aaron Rodgers loves the guy, to be a number 1 receiver.
And even their second-round pick, Christian Watson. Where's he been?
He's
MIA.
I know he's been hurt, but at the end of it, it's just, again, unfair to expect a second-round pick to be that guy. If you're going to trade Devontae Adams, then fine. Then go out and get somebody to replace him. But I give the Giants a lot of credit, man. They looked like shit in the first half of that game, and they came out a completely different team in the second half, and Martindale completely shut down the Packer offense.
Oh, shit.
What?
I got Raw in the background, and AJ's hugging it out with Finn Balor, and the Gallows and Anderson just came out.
Oh, really? So now they're all part of Judgment Day?
It looks like Gallows and Anderson. No, it looks like it was like an ambush. Like they're going to be Gallows and Anderson are on with AJ going against Judgment Day now. But wow, I thought they weren't Gallows and Anderson like the Impact champions or whatever. Like
their contract ran out, so they went back to Japan, I think, for a while.
Yeah. Well, now they're here in WWE.
Dude, I tell you, man, Triple H is bringing. I think AEW should be nervous, man.
Oh, I would be so nervous if I was WWE. If I was AEW,
especially like, here's one thing I'll say. Well, let's close the show. We'll do a little wrestling, and then we'll call it a night. I haven't seen Extreme Rules yet. I did see the Liv match. The Liv match was terrible. The Liv match, Liv and Rousey. I know she's your girl, but I can't stand Rousey in the heel role. She's not good. She's really not.
I can only defend her so much, and watching her wrestle, it's not that great.
Klim, she's not a good actress. Like, she can't pull it off. She tries to be. It was like, you know how we said about Evil Kip in Creative Pro? He tries to be a heel, but he's like a terrible, like, douchey heel. Like, he tries to be like a douchey heel, and he's just completely terrible at it.
Right.
That's kind of what I see in Rousey. Rousey is trying too hard to be this, like, douchey heel and trying to be this arrogant heel, and she's bad at it. She's just not good. You know? And I've always thought they booked Liv terribly as a champion. That was pretty obvious. Now she's probably never going to win the belt again. But I'm telling you right now, here is my prediction. I'm calling it. Liv is going to be a member of Wyatt's stable. I am 1,000% convinced, and I think she can do a better job than Alexa Bliss.
Well, I was going to say, did you hear the rumors of who's going to be part of the Wyatt Six?
I've heard that it's going to be a combination of Braun Strowman, Bray, Aleister Black. I think Buddy Murphy was rumored as part of it because he wants to go back to WWE. But I didn't hear the rest of it. So,
all right. So I would say, because that rumor is different from what I heard. I heard it's going to be Liv Morgan, Joe Gacy, Grayson Waller. I think it was who else? Joe Gacy. Bo Dallas.
Bo Dallas, I heard, is coming back to WWE.
Bo Dallas, and there was another one. I can't remember who. Well, let me see if I could find it. But those were some of the names I saw, and I was like, okay.
I don't know if Grayson Waller would be a good pick for the Wyatt Six, but
I don't. Yeah, I can't find the video I watched, but yeah, those were some of the names I heard, and I was like, okay.
Gacy would be good. Gacy would actually be good, but he also has the dyad in NXT, so I'm not sure what they would do with those guys. But Liv, to me, makes perfect sense because I think she can pull it off better. She could pull off the goth look better than Alexa Bliss. You know, remember when she was with the Riot Squad? She was like, you know, the Harley Quinn-ish type character. I think she's so much better in that role, and I think she could pull it off a lot better. I think that's where it's headed. I'm convinced now Liv Morgan is going to be in the Wyatt stable.
No, I think so too, but like I can also just see it in the back of the like WWE just being like, well, we already have Alexa Bliss like kind of attached to Bray Wyatt. It may only make sense to bring back Alexa, you know? Like, I mean, I agree with you. I think a Liv would do a better job, but I can also just see them be like, Alexa's already got history with Bray. We'll just keep it at that.
But the Bray Wyatt return on Extreme Rules was amazing. I thought it was done perfectly. Like, I don't think there was anything wrong with it whatsoever.
No, it was perfect. It was absolutely perfect. He didn't interrupt any matches. He came out after the match, glowing light. It was perfect. You had all the faces of Bray Wyatt out there in the costumes. It was absolutely done very good.
Yeah, it was a pretty solid. I didn't see the show, but I saw the Bray Wyatt thing. I loved it.
I watched it and I listened to our boys' recap of it.
Oh, the Pisanos?
Yeah, I think
I caught it on. I was listening to it this morning at work.
Yeah, I think they ended up giving it like a B minus as a show, but then it went up to like a B plus A minus with
Wyatt.
Yeah, it wasn't really that bad. It wasn't really that bad. I mean,
I think Tony Khan missed the boat on that one. I think he should have made every way possible to land Wyatt.
Oh yeah,
that would have been a huge blow to WWE if he would have found a way to land Wyatt. And now it's like, now you got Gallows and Anderson back with Styles, which is actually a pretty good faction to go against Judgment Day. I'm kind of getting sick of the whole Rey Mysterio, Dominic Mysterio. Just fucking do the match already and be done with it. I think Rey needs to retire. I'm kind of, Rey Mysterio just looks like a schmuck now. I mean, it's just really corny to me. But, as for AEW, the stories surrounding Andrade and Sammy Guevara get really just more drama in the Federation. Apparently, Andrade is doing everything he can to get fired from AEW. Tony Khan is not going to fire him. Apparently, they were told ahead of time that if they're fighting, they're going to get sent home. Now there's conflicting stories about what happened, that apparently Andrade kind of sucker punched Guevara. Guevara was involved in some, with it, but Jericho backed Sammy Guevara, so Guevara got to stay, and Andrade got sent home, and everything. It's just a freaking mess.
Oh, it's falling apart at the seams, man. And you don't want it to, but it's like a bad train. It's like a bad train wreck, and you just like can't look away. It's like.
I just think personally they're going to put way too much pressure on MJF to carry the load. I really do. Punk's probably not coming back. And to be honest, a lot of the WWE people they signed, they've done little to nothing with. At least I don't think they have.
No, it's very, very minimal. The only guy who's gotten a real push from WWE has been Moxley. That's it.
I mean, Bryan Danielson hasn't gotten much of a push. I mean, at least I don't think so. No. Jericho is holding the Ring of Honor Championship. Who gives a shit about that belt? They just don't book. I don't know if the booking is really poor. I mean, listen, no one will discount the fact that AEW does put on good wrestling matches. Mm-hmm. I don't disagree with that. The problem is that the characters to me just aren't interesting. They're not. Right. They're just not. They were doing it. They were at the show last Wednesday. Apparently, was only holding 4,000 people.
Oh,
4,000 people. That's how big the venue was for the show. But I think they're really at this point they are praying that MJF carries them through. And he is a draw. He's a huge draw. He's an absolutely huge draw for AEW. But the problem is that his promos are going to start getting weaker because he's going to be he's going to be asked to push the bar even further, with whatever feud he's involved in. And I think that they just don't have a lot. Like, I'm not crazy about Moxley being the champion. I mean, it's just gotten to the point though where I just don't think the talent. I mean, they have good matches, but I'm not blown away by like their roster as much as I used to be. You don't have Omega. You don't have the Young Bucks. You don't have Punk. You have guys that are still hurt. I haven't seen Adam Cole or Kyle O'Reilly. I mean, they're still hurt. I mean, the women's division still sucks. And you have Chris Jericho, who's one of your best heels right now, and he's holding a bullshit title. He's holding a bullshit title. No one cares about the Ring of Honor Championship.
I could give a rat's ass about any other title. See, and that's another thing that I hate that AEW does. They interact too much with ROH and New Japan. I don't give a shit about any of those companies. I care if I'm watching AEW, I care about AEW. I care about what's going on in AEW. I don't care about what's going on in New Japan. I don't care about what's going on in ROH, NWA, and all this shit. I don't care Lucha, AAA, whatever it is. I don't care about any of that stuff. I'm watching AEW to watch AEW. I want to see Jungle Boy. I want to see Darby Allin. I want to see Serena Deeb. Those are the wrestlers I want to watch. But again, like they don't highlight the people who we actually like care for.
It was like Keith and I were talking the other day, and he said, AEW has built up a good roster of guys. I go, I don't disagree with you with that. I mean, yes, they do have some talent, but that talent is being completely overshadowed by all the WWE guys he brings in.
Mm-hmm.
He brings in a lot of random WWE guys. Like you signed Morrissey for what? For what? What is he doing? What is he doing on AEW? He's just a middling player in a faction by MJF. This is like a 7-foot guy that was kind of reinvented himself as an intimidating presence after, just years of struggling and everything. And like, he's just nothing to me. Like this faction and MJF has just a bunch of retreads. There's nothing interesting about it.
No, I'm looking at the roster right now. It's so many fucking names. Like, holy shit.
Because he just keeps adding guys like left and right. Like he just keeps adding these like random wrestlers to the line know.
Like I'll read some of the more like the names that we know: Adam Cole, Alex Reynolds, Andrade, Anthony Bowens, Austin Gunn, Billy Gunn, Blade, Brandon Cutler, Brian Cage, Brian Pillman, Brody King, Brian Danielson, Buddy Matthews, Blade, Butcher, Cash Wheeler. Not Cash Wheeler anymore. Yes.
But think about it. Now think about it, right? Think about how many guys right now are supposedly want out of AEW and they want out of their contracts and the thing is they all signed these lucrative contracts. They sound like these like 4 or 5 year deals. Tony Khan has no clue how to negotiate a contract. He's signing these guys to like these crazy contracts. And now they all want out because they're not being used. Andrade's like beating the shit out of people just to get out.
There are so many people on this roster. It's not even funny. You're getting lost. Like you get lost in some of these guys. Like I would like. It's insane how much you're seeing. Like oh my god, I didn't realize how bad the roster was until I'm just looking at it now with all these names.
Like think about all those guys. Do you see them every week on Dynamite?
No,
you don't. You don't see.
And I'm not watching fucking the other show either.
Nobody watches Rampage.
Yeah.
So why am I not surprised that you're not going to see these guys?
Yeah, like, and even if you want to fit all these guys on the show, you're not giving them enough time to, one, build up a feud, or two, for us to get to know them.
So it's just kind of, and then you watch WWE, and in the span of 2 days, you have Bray Wyatt. You now have Gallows and Anderson partnering up with Styles, so Styles is getting a bit of a push. Supposedly, I read also Finn Balor is getting a push.
Good.
Finn Balor, I think, is getting a push as a heel. That's why I think Judgment Day has been getting a lot of this, like, moving forward lately. But people want to go back to WWE because of Triple H. That should scare the shit out of Tony Khan.
They absolutely should. And you know what another problem is, too? Because I saw it today, because apparently it's Tony Khan's birthday, and AEW put something on their Instagram about it. They're like, happy birthday to the owner, president, CEO, GM of AEW. That's way too many fucking jobs for him to have. First of all, he should not be the GM. Okay, you want to be the president and CEO? Fine. But you should not be the fucking GM of your fucking company. You're just going to drive it right into the ground.
Well, WWE just keep bringing guys back. I mean, they brought back Braun Strowman. They brought back, like I said, they just brought Wyatt back. Now there's talk, Bo Dallas could be coming back as some part of his faction. Gallows and Anderson are now back in WWE. I mean, they're just going to keep bringing guys back because they need the depth on the roster. They don't have any. And then what they'll do is they'll start to weed out some of the dead weight, and they'll release those guys, and then they'll just kind of move forward with what they have.
Yep.
So, all right, before we get out of here, Klim, you got anything else?
Yeah, Notre Dame. Big win this weekend over BYU.
You're not wearing a Brady Quinn jersey.
Brady Quinn was my guy, man. Brady Quinn was my guy when I watched Notre Dame.
He doesn't like Zach. He hates Zach Wilson. You can't side with Brady Quinn.
I can't like Brady Quinn then.
Yeah, Notre Dame 3 in a row. They beat BYU. It was a really good game at the stadium, at the Shamrock Series. Hockey starts this week, Klim. Lost in all the shuffle. Islanders start Thursday against the Florida Panthers. Rangers start tomorrow against Tampa Bay Lightning. I'm curious to see how the Islanders are going to be under Lambert. I was reading up on it today in The Athletic. They were doing they did a whole Islander article, and it looks like right now for the bottom 3 pair. Robin Salo is going to make the team, but Mayfield is hurt. He may not play to start the season. Sebastian Aho is going to probably be paired with Salo. And Kiefer Bellows has actually been pretty decent in training camp and preseason, so he might be looking at a bigger role. And while Ilya Sorokin will probably be the number 1 goalie, Lambert's kind of hinting he might alternate them to start because to get Varlamov as much work as he can. So I can see that being it. If guys realize their potential on the Islanders this year and they can bounce back from their shitty years last year, I don't see any reason why the Islanders can't be a playoff team this year. So, but I think they'll need more scoring out of guys like Pajot and guys like Palmieri. I mean, these guys just gonna have to step up their game. They're gonna need a bigger season out of Anders Lee this year, a bigger season out of Brock Nelson. Barzal just signed an 8-year extension to stay with the Islanders, so that was, I personally think Barzal's overrated, but I know Islander fans love him. So, and I think from that contract, it leads me to believe that Barzal was the catalyst in getting Trotz fired.
You think?
I don't think he liked Trotz. I'm kind of convinced that he didn't like Trotz. So, but hockey's back. It always takes a little while to get into hockey for me, just because the season starts in October. Baseball's in play, football's in play. So once football season ends, then I start to get a little bit more into hockey. And next week, Klim, Nets basketball is back. So it'll be fun to see what Simmons, Durant, and Hart and Kyrie can do.
Yeah, hopefully.
Combined this year for the Brooklyn Nets. I think the Brooklyn Nets are going to be a good team. I mean, I don't see why they.
I mean, they should be.
First of all, Kyrie has a lot to play for this year. Kyrie has no choice but to play. He can't just sit out when he feels like it. He's going to have to play because he's only on a 1-year deal. And teams, to be honest, if teams really wanted Kyrie Irving, they would have traded for him by now. So they're probably just as tired of his shit as the Nets are. So he's got to prove to everybody that he could be a team player. Otherwise, the Nets he's just going to be gone, and he's going to be signing like veteran minimum deals because no one's going to want to deal with the headache.
No, you're right. You're absolutely right.
A little bit more to prove, and I think Simmons is going to be. I think he's going to be good this year. I think Ben Simmons. It's going to take him a little while though, so you got to be prepared for got to go. He's going to have to work his way back. It's going to take some time, but I think Simmons is going to be good.
Yeah, as long as you have Simmons running the point with Kyrie at the guard and Durant at one of the forward positions, the Nets will be fine. The Nets should be competing with the Bucks for the top seed in the Eastern Conference.
All right, everyone, that's going to do it for this episode of Moffett on the Mic for this Monday evening. Thank you to everybody for checking us out on the Facebook Live feed. You can follow the show on Instagram at Moff on the Mic. You could also follow the show on my Facebook page as well. You can follow Klim and the A1 Sports Network at Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. You can like and subscribe to our show courtesy of Apple Podcasts. Leave us a 5-star review. Klim, thank you for holding it down like you normally do. We'll talk about next week. I may not be able to do it. So, okay. But we'll definitely, we might be back next week. We might not. But we'll be talking baseball, we'll be talking football, and everything else. So on behalf of Klim, this is Craig. This has been the Moffett on the Mic show. Wherever you are, stay safe. Have a great rest of your week. And enjoy being a Jet fan, man. 3-2, no need to ride a ridiculously emotional high, but it's okay to just be excited for the team. And, again, if you're a Giant fan, definitely be excited as well. 4-1, another big game coming up on Sunday against the Baltimore Ravens. So, again, wherever you are, stay safe. Have a great rest of your week. We might be back next Monday. We might not. You'll just have to wait and find out. All right, everybody, take care of yourselves. And, again, thank you for checking us out. And, again, have a great week. Take care, everybody.